There's a 2-minute conversation almost nobody has with their doctor, and it might be the most important one of your life. What if the pill that's supposed to protect you is working at the wrong time every single night?
What do you mean?
If it's activating while you sleep, it could do more harm than good. The thing that's most likely to stop your heart tonight isn't stress, it isn't smoking, it's what you had for dinner. If you're over 60 and you ate dinner after 8 p.m. last night, I need you to hear this before you do it again. Doctors don't tell you this, but your last meal of the day might be the most dangerous thing you do all week. Most people picture a heart attack as sudden and loud. Crushing chest pain, a numb arm, someone collapsing in front of witnesses. That's the version we see in films. But in my 2 decades as a cardiac surgeon, the events that scare me most are the quiet ones. The ones that build slowly overnight, with no warning and no chance to call for help. Here's the part that surprises almost everyone I tell. These silent events are rarely caused by anything dramatic. They're triggered by small, ordinary choices made in the last hour or two before bed. Tonight, I want to walk you through 5 of those choices, habits so common you've probably never questioned them, and show you how to change each one starting this evening. Let's start with what actually happens to your heart while you sleep. In a healthy body, nighttime is when your cardiovascular system downshifts. Blood pressure typically drops 10–20% below daytime levels. Heart rate slows, arteries loosen up. It's essentially scheduled maintenance your body performs every single night. After 60, that maintenance window becomes less dependable. Arteries stiffen. The hormonal signals that once smoothed out nighttime blood pressure start to fade. The safety margin shrinks. During the day, your cardiovascular system has backup systems. It can adjust on the fly. At night, several of those backups are effectively switched off. Your body is running on a much smaller crew. That's the real reason the hours between midnight and dawn carry the highest risk of heart attack and stroke in older adults. Not rush hour, not the afternoon, the dark, quiet stretch when nobody's watching except your own habits. And what happens during those hours is shaped almost entirely by what you did before turning off the lamp. When you ate, whether you took your medication, how warm your room was. Let's start with the one that surprises my patients most. I ask nearly every patient over 65 or 70 the same question. What time did you eat last night and what was on your plate? A striking number tell me 8, 9, sometimes 10 p.m., a full plate of pasta or rice, maybe something fried, followed by an hour on the couch and then bed. I understand how that happens. Long days, family schedules, decades-old routines, but from a cardiac standpoint, this pattern quietly overworks your heart. A large meal forces a surge of blood toward your digestive system, which means your heart has to pump harder and blood pressure climbs. Triglyceride levels, the fats floating in your bloodstream, spike within 2 to 4 hours of eating. Now layer sleep on top of that. Your body expects the evening to be a wind down, not a digestive emergency. Instead, your heart is trying to process a heavy meal and shift into recovery mode at the same time, 2 competing demands. In someone with even mild arterial stiffness, that tug of war can have real consequences. Research consistently links eating within 2 to 3 hours of bedtime to higher nighttime blood pressure, more acid reflux, which can mimic or provoke cardiac symptoms, and a greater chance of a cardiac event during sleep. The fix isn't complicated. Aim to finish your main meal by 6 or 7 p.m. If a later meal is unavoidable, keep it light. Lean protein and vegetables instead of anything heavy or fried. This next one matters enormously, and in my experience, most doctors never take the time to explain it properly. If you're over 60 and on blood pressure medication, and more than 6 in 10 people this age are, when you take that pill can matter as much as whether you take it at all. Normally, blood pressure follows a daily rhythm. It climbs in the morning, peaks in the afternoon, and eases off at night. But a large number of people over 60, especially those with hypertension, never get that nighttime dip. Their pressure stays elevated, or worse, it surges in the early morning hours. Doctors call this nocturnal hypertension. Almost nobody has heard the term, yet it behaves very differently and more dangerously than ordinary daytime high blood pressure. Here's why it matters. While you sleep, your arterial walls aren't braced for sudden pressure changes. A spike at 3 a.m. hits your arteries very differently than the same spike would at 3 p.m. It's more likely to crack a fragile plaque inside a coronary artery, more likely to seed a blood clot, more likely to be the reason someone ends up on my operating table. If you only take your blood pressure medicine in the morning, its protective effect may have worn off by the time your body needs it most, in the middle of the night. And if a dose gets missed altogether, you may be spending the riskiest hours of the day completely unshielded.